Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Interact podcast. My name is Josh Haynam, co founder and CEO at Interact. Today, I am joined by Corean Canty, founder and voice strategist. And you've created a very, very useful, I thought it was useful, voice quiz. And I just wanted to hear your perspective on how you formulated it, how you thought about it, how you connected it back to your audience, all those types of things. So, if you're game, you just jump right in and tell us like where the idea for this quiz came from and how you put it together.
Yeah, no, so um, I'll go back a little bit because it's kind of been a seed that's been in me for a long time that's reemerged recently in my career. I started my career in radio. So I was a
Oh,
morning show host and a news director, and that was probably still to this day my favorite job way back at the beginning of my career. Then I spent 20 years in media marketing advertising. So I've always been around storytelling or voice of brand. And as I left corporate to become a caretaker to my mother, there's a couple of different ways that your own voice and using your voice came to the surface for me. One of them was just the fact that in my own voice, had been building brands for so many years, but had kept my voice to the side. Like I hadn't focused as much on my own voice. So I decided to do a TEDx talk. And so I did a TEDx talk around play. And that just opened up my door to a whole new world of that experience and what it really means to find your voice. Because I've been on stages for many years. I'm a comedian and improviser and do a lot around play. So I'm not afraid of being on stage or being in front of a crowd or even using my voice in that way. But I also realize, like, as we build these careers, especially the should careers, like you should go climb the ladder and you should do this and you should do this. And this is how you need to talk to be successful. And this is how you need to do this and do that. More and more, I realized, oh, I'm using the should voice. And a lot of people who were coming to me as I started coaching TEDx speakers were wanting to even write their talks in the should box. Like, well, what should I say if I want to do this? Instead of like, well, what's your truth and what's your story and what's your voice? And so my coaching business evolved into really helping people with thought leadership and finding their voice, especially like founders and executives who are constantly wanting to tell their story in an authentic way, but they put so many limitations on themselves, or there's been so many shoulds or so much programming over the years that sometimes we forget what our voice even sounds like, or we don't even recognize that we're all going to switch up a little bit in different rooms or different environments where we feel comfortable. But there's a level of it where you forgot what you even sound like, right? And so, because a lot of my work working with thought leaders is like pulling back those shoulds and finding your voice, and that's very personal work. And so I wanted to find a way for people who are like, well, I don't even know if I'm using my voice. I don't even know what my voice sounds like, to tap in and kind of be a mirror, as I like to call it, because we can't always read our labels from inside our jars. Sometimes we need something to show us ourselves a little bit. So that was my goal going into, like, well, what's the best way to give somebody a tool and something that we all need, especially now in the world of AI, but can feel uncomfortable, or we might not even think about it. And how can we do it in a fun way? Because I'm very play based in everything that I do. And we grew up and we're taught to be too serious way too much. So that's why I love quizzes, because we all like to take them, right? We all love to find these little nuggets about ourselves, or take a fun quiz or a personality test or something to learn about ourselves. And so that's what gave me the idea of working on a voice quiz to help people kind of see themselves.
that's really cool context. Now I can hear it in your voice. Definitely that you got the radio show voice. It's cool. Uh, um, but and that context is also helpful because you've seen it in so many people, this struggle to fully express themselves, be comfortable. You should show up this way. You should show up that way. You're supposed to sound like this. Yeah, all that stuff, right? Um,
Yeah.
and and you're helping to move past that, which I would imagine is both helpful to the individual and also helpful for their goals of like, you know, personal branding, right? Like
Yeah.
you reach more people if it sounds authentic and genuine versus like a cookie cutter thing.
Yeah. Humans want to hear from humans. And since the beginning of time, before we even had written word, like, we find meaning in story. So we have to start with our own. We have to know how to tell our own story, especially now when so many people are putting their brains in jars and letting AI speak for them. Like I've been teaching people how to use it as a thought partner and not as a replacement for your voice, because they're amazing tools. You just have to know how to use them the right way, because we can either use them to help us think better, or we can turn our thinking off. And I think it's really important to not turn our thinking off and to use it in a way that helps us find our authentic voice, because it's the non-negotiable, especially now, especially when you hear about the job market and everything that's going on. Like, you have to be visible. There's like the days of just working somewhere for 30 years and then being taken care of, or the days of I get to apply and actually my resume is even seen. Like, it doesn't exist anymore. So you have to understand how to speak your value and showcase your value and talk about your experience and talk about your expertise. And so many of us just go through life and our career on to the next thing, that we don't even stop and like document the good stuff that we do or celebrate our wins. And so I also encourage people to do that, to like stop and think about, like, well, what did I achieve this week? What did I learn this week? What did I accomplish this week? How do I talk about that? How do I share that? And encourage other people to kind of share what they're learning, so we can all find our voice and help each other grow together.
That's a very good point. I hadn't heard it put exactly that way, but it's very prescient, that idea of you have to be visible. You're not gonna just get the, like, I don't know. The immediate thought that comes to mind is like these wild stories from the past of like some kids in a play, and the director's in the audience, and then they get the acting gig. It's like it kind of seems like that doesn't exist anymore. Like, now you have to put yourself out there
Yeah.
first,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you can break through enough where,
Mm-hmm.
like, what's the phrasing for this? Like, you're almost like, you can't ignore it, basically. Like,
Yeah.
you are everywhere.
Yeah.
Then you can get stuff.
No, that's so true. And especially like, and I like that you brought up an example of the arts. So my mate, he's an actor. And so I've been in comedy and creativity for a very long time, but even I'm a writer as well. And even talking to like my literary agent, like everything's shifting to where it's not just about talent anymore. Like, the first question is, well, how big's your platform? Like, what's your
Mm,
reach just as a human?
mm.
Right. In anything. And so before, when it was like the big thing, because I mean, I was in radio 20 years ago. So like big things like, ooh, let's find the undiscovered talent and be the ones to like put this person out there. And now it's like, but what we just need to find the one that's already made themselves big, right? It's just completely different.
That's so, yeah, it's like it's all flipped around now, right? Like, now, like, the people are, it's like you have the audience first and then there's the talent. It's like there is no such thing as an undiscovered talent, because you put your talents
Mhm.
onto social media or through video or podcast or whatever format it is, and then whatever breaks through is the talent, and that's just like how it works now. And so, like, by the time you don't even get discovered, like, you discover yourself, which
Yeah.
is what your quiz is about. So that's an interesting, like,
Yeah.
dovetail back to the concept that you're helping people unlock for themselves.
Yeah. Oh, I love it being put that way.
That's so fascinating, because then, right, from connecting the dots of what you're talking about here, it's like, okay, you discover yourself. That gives you the freedom, for lack of a better word,
Hmm.
to, like, go and put that stuff out in the world, which then gets you to the same goal
Hmm.
of the previous way of doing this, which was like, I don't know, sit in a room and practice your whatever your skill is, um, and then wait for it to be discovered. Now it's like, discover your skill, put it out there.
Yeah.
It's a new model.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Interesting. Um, what are the things that people usually struggle with? I know it's in your quiz, so I've taken it and I've seen mine, but like, what are the things that people typically struggle with when it comes to, like, putting their own story and voice out there?
Yeah. Well, public speaking is one of, the top fears that most people have. And so
No.
just that alone, getting past the fear of judgment or embarrassment, or like, I think the number one thing is like, I don't like how my voice sounds. like outside of my
Oh,
head. And the one thing I say to
yeah.
people is, well, you're not supposed to hear it, right? Like we invented ways to hear ourselves. And so, especially like when people are doing video and you're like watching yourself and you're hearing your voice outside of your head, like our brain's not set up in the same way as our ears. So other people hear our voice different. So when we hear our recorded voice, it's going to sound weird because it's not natural to us. When we see our face, we don't like it because we're by design in nature, we would have never seen our face or heard our own voice if we didn't invent ways to do it. Right. So if once people get past the fact that like it's uncomfortable to everybody at first because it's not natural, right? We have to just kind of get that biology out of the way. And then it's okay now, but what do I say? And I don't know enough. Or you start second guessing how much like you have to have this PhD level expertise to talk on a topic. And it's really like what people don't recognize is most people are not even going to relate to someone that's that far ahead of them if they're on a journey. If you want to be a thought leader in some area. And like an example I use a lot is like we all love Oprah. We all know who Oprah is. Oprah lives this fabulous life. We all know Oprah had a journey of building, being self made. But Oprah's at a level now where we don't really believe we can be Oprah, right? Like what the
Mm,
excuse would be, oh, but that's Oprah. She can do it because that's Oprah. But the person who's just a couple steps ahead of you, you can see yourselves in them and
mm,
you can hear from their story, oh, I could do that. And so what we don't realize is when we start sharing our own expertise and our own lived experience, we give other people permission to take the next step who are just a couple steps behind us. And many times we think it has to be this big, grand, perfect performance thing. And really, it's just, no, there's someone out there waiting to hear about your experience because it will help them in some way. And when we start to recognize it in that, people start to get a little bit more comfortable and realize, like, oh, well, I do have some things to say. Oh, well, I did learn this. But it takes slowing down and looking at yourself and looking at your life and looking at your accomplishments, which we're not a slow down society. So it's just kind of like, well, also you should slow down and like celebrate what you've done and what you've achieved because we've all done and achieved things no matter what. We might not have done exactly what the path was that we thought we were going to do that was laid out before us, but we've all learned and grown in many different ways and it all can be helpful.
yeah. And I think that with the access to everybody's greatest accomplishments, which is your social media feeds, right? You
Hmm.
kind of have this warped perception where it's like, oh, well, whatever I've done is not important. Whatever I've achieved is
Hmm.
not important. It's not as good as this, not as good as that. The Oprah is a great example, right? It's like, oh, I'm
Hmm.
not Oprah, so I guess I can't be an influencer, can't have a TV show.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, well, there's only one Oprah,
Yeah.
so not great odds if you're like trying to start out. Uh, do you think that's the biggest unlock? Is like people recognizing their own value, their own accomplishments? I guess I'm trying to ask a question around like what motivates people to break through. And in my world, a lot of our audience has really struggled to make the switch from like the old school, I sit behind a computer and write blog posts, or I
Hmm.
like create online courses and then I run ads to them. And now they're trying to show up and make 90-second videos and they either just don't and they just kind of throw in the towel, or they do and it's really stiff and awkward and then it doesn't work and then they give up.
Hmm.
um, what do you think is the most motivating factor?
I think, well, let's start with the things that like throw us off, right? Because we do live in this society that it's measured by like likes and hearts and all of these different things that we're so used to. And so too many people will put one video out there and they'll be like, this is awful and I quit, right? Well, your first video is going to be awful no matter who you are because it's your first
Mhm.
video. It's like taking your first step, right? But you have to keep going. And people are like, oh man, that video only had 10 likes or 10 views. And I'm like, well, if you're standing and speaking in front of 10 people,
Mm-hmm.
how does that feel, right? That's a room full of people. Or, oh my gosh, I only got 100 views. It's like, well, that's a very big audience if you're standing and talking in front of someone. And so when you start
Mm-hmm.
putting it in perspective that our minds are warped about what an audience is, right? Very few people have stood on a stage in front of 7 million people. Like, it just doesn't happen, right? So we have to think about, like, it's a big deal to have 20 people listen to you and engage with you. Like, that's a big deal. And we make it feel like it's a failure, and it's not. And so once people kind of get their mindset of like, let me just keep going. And the biggest
Mm.
mindset and the biggest motivator is when I help people look at it in a way that's like play. Like, don't take it so serious. Realize, like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Someone will scroll past your video.
Mhm.
Like, that's the very worst thing. Someone, you might get a bot that says something crazy, because most of the negative comments aren't even real people when you understand like technology. Um, but you can ignore all of those things, and it's just, you'll get that one person who sends you that message and like, oh my God, I needed to hear this today. That's exactly what I needed. I never thought of that. You gave me a good idea. I moved on. And like, it's when you get that first comment from like a real human that you made a difference in one person's life, then you realize like, oh, that matters. So let me do another one. Let me keep going. Let me say the thing. Let me be the voice in the room if I'm at work and I can tell that this one person never gets to talk, right? Like, these little moments is what gives other people permission and unlocks and creates impact and meaning in life, where we help each other.
Mm. Yeah, I like the way you're phrasing that, because the thing that pops into my head is like, the athlete that's practicing, right? Like, no one's watching, they're in the gym, and we've come into this warped sense of reality where it's like, unless there's 1,000 people in the stands, I'm not going to practice at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, why would 1,000 people watch when you miss every single shot because you have never shot a basketball before? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense. But we've turned that into what we expect on the internet. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
unless I get 1,000 views on every video immediately, then that means that like I'm never gonna make it. And it's like,
Yeah.
why? Why do you think that? It's
And you
an
don't,
interesting,
yeah, you don't realize how many people actually are watching though, or like are paying attention.
right?
Like, for example, I'm in a lot of rooms. I network a lot. I belong to a lot of organizations. I speak a lot of different places. And the amount of times I walk in a room and someone's like, "Oh, your LinkedIn post made the difference for me today. I've never seen this person. They didn't comment. They didn't like it, right? Oh, I can't wait for your LinkedIn post, or I can't wait for I see your walk and talk videos." But they've never actually engaged, because I see the people who engage all the time, right? Or I see the people who make comments, and I respond to every single comment. So I pay attention. And so then it happened so much that I realized, like, oh, there's so many people out here thinking that what they're putting out there isn't reaching anybody. And it's just, we are in such a habit of scrolling that many people don't even stop and engage. They'll stop and watch it, and then they'll just, auto scroll. And so you can't rely on the numbers. You can't rely on the measurement that the apps give you. You just have to start doing it and start realizing that real people are going to give you real life feedback on how it's making a difference in their life.
Yeah, that's true. I've had the same exact experience. I'll have a week or two where I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel like I'm getting much engagement. And then I'll see a friend in person and they'll be like, I actually really liked that last thing that you put up. And like that made a difference in XYZ ways. And you're like, oh, okay, it does
Hmm.
actually reach people. And I don't know. I wonder if like even those metrics will change over time, where it won't be so much about the likes and the comments and whatnot. Like it becomes more of like a entertainment feed, right? Because you can imagine like
Hmm.
a talk show host from the 90s when that was like the most popular thing in the world. Like there was no comments, there was no likes. It was like
Right.
people just watched it and it made an impact on their life, but
Hmm.
it wasn't like there was this crazy. We've gotten so used to this like immediate feedback loop where
Yes.
it's like, unless immediately everybody in the world likes it, then I'm not going to do it. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, how do you
Yeah.
get good at anything?
Right. Right. And that's the same with your
Yeah.
voice. Like, you have to use it. You have to use it to get really comfortable with it and to get better at it, and to even figure out, like, well, what is it that I really care about? What is it that I really want to say? Like, what is my truth? Is what's coming out of my mouth Am I saying it just because I think I should, or it's been programmed, or I've heard it said, or I'm trying to be like this other person I think is successful, and so I'm ignoring what I feel or what I think should be said? Or there's just so many different things that come up because our judge in our mind is the first saboteur that we have. And so we judge ourselves before we even get the words out of our mouth.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, and I think I'm curious your reaction to this, but my perception of working with our audience, mostly creators, small business owners, CMOs, like marketing professionals, a lot of folks I think have kind of been not sure what to do because with AI coming on the scene, it's kind of this like, does it even matter if I have a voice anymore the last few years? And it's weird how things like shift all at once. Tell me if this is your perspective, but like I feel like the last month, everybody is now convinced that AI is not going to take over the world. And like we got to get back to that other stuff we were doing, i.e., like how the hell do we like break through the noise as people?
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing that we have to remember is AI is great. It's going to keep it's the worst it's ever going to be. It's just going to keep getting better and improve and do all of these different things, but it's still never going to be human. Like I think one of the ways that I heard it recently that I really enjoyed, I was listening to Deepak Chopra, and he was talking about how, we all know that AI is moving quicker than any technology we've ever had, right? Everything else has had longer adoption times, and we can't even wrap our minds around the speed of adoption and how it's evolving. But he said, yes, AI now, like you could ask it to paint you a Picasso or insert whatever artist he said, and it could do a really great job. You might not even be able to know the difference, but ask it to create something from someone who's not born yet. And he was like, only humans can be original creators because AI can only work with what's already been done or what's already here. Right. And so we forget that no matter what, the most advanced technology is our brain. But if we don't use it, just like any other muscle, we're not tapping in. And so if everyone starts to sound cookie cutter, who's going to stand out the most? Your own voice, right? Because we all have them, and we all have unique, different lived experiences. We could talk about the same thing. You and I could be looking at the exact same scene, and we're going to describe it completely different because we have different backgrounds and we have different perceptions and we have different ideas and different likes and different things that we enjoy. And so I think that the people who recognize that and lean in and are like, you know what, this is the time for me to use my voice now more than ever. And these tools can actually help me with my own voice and help me with the reach and all of the things that they're saying are so necessary right now to be able to cut through the noise. It can help me be more productive. It can help me plan my day. It can help me get smarter at how I organize my content. But our original thinking and our original creativity and how two humans together, because I do a lot of improv, can create worlds, right? Like that's not going anywhere. And I think that's super powerful. And so I've been doing a lot of how do you find your voice and how do you remember to play? Because those are the two things that are going to make you stand out as technology advances.
I like that. That's a very like zoomed out perspective from the way I'm hearing it. That I think it is the right moment where there is a bit of a vacuum in the
Mm-hmm.
voice space, personal voice, personal brand, whatever you want to call it, where there's been so much change the last few years, last 5 years, that like
Mm-hmm.
working with small business owners, we've seen it. Like a lot of people have shifted off or done other things or decided to take a break or whatever. So it's a perfect opportunity if you've been like wanting to jump in, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
there's just less people in it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the perfect time to get started. Like that doesn't
Yeah.
happen very often, right? Like
Well, and
you
here's the
don't
thing.
get these opportunities.
Here's the other metaphor I use because people can understand this, right? Because we're always like, oh, there's so many people doing it online, and I can't talk about this
Yeah.
because so many people doing it. I'm like, well, did that stop Burger King from putting the restaurant next to McDonald's, which was already next to Wendy's? It's all hamburgers, right?
Mm,
And they make a lot of money, right? there's enough people to go around who eat hamburgers, right? And it's like, but they tell different stories so they can be next to each other and offer the exact same thing, the exact same menu, exact same price, and someone's going to resonate with the way one of the brands tells their story over the other or not. There's options, but we always think that, oh man, it's oversaturated. Nobody will ever talk to me. And it's like, but just look around, like walk into a store. How many different types of chips are there? How many different types of soap are there? How, like, there's all these different types of one thing, and but there's only one of all of us. And if we don't recognize how powerful that is, and that there's definitely space because someone's waiting for you, the one of one, they're waiting for you. There's a bunch of people out there waiting for your voice, and you're depriving them of it because you're too afraid to use it.
That's very true. I mean, I don't know. Similarly to like, oh, every post should have 1,000 views. There's also this
Mm-hmm.
perception that like, if somebody is doing something, you can't do it too, and that's kind of the opposite of true. I mean, perhaps like it's because we see so much in the news about like these huge companies where it is winner take all. Oftentimes,
Yeah.
like it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a monopoly, right? Like Google just, I mean, they won their case, but like they're being accused of being a monopoly because
Mm-hmm.
they were for a long time. Like it was the only option to search on the internet. Now you kind of got some chat GPT as like a
Mm-hmm.
secondary option. So that's good, but like that's not realistic in the rest of the world. Like there's not
Right.
only two people helping people find their voice. This
Right.
is not how it goes.
Right.
Like
Right.
there could be 10,000,
Right.
like,
There's
and
billions
everyone
of
can make a,
humans.
yeah, everyone
Right.
can make a
Yeah.
great living, and you just have to like continue. But that's where it kind of goes back to what you're talking about. It does have to be, yeah, it has to be in your own voice. And you know, we haven't talked about quizzes too much about in this conversation, but we actually have, because like this is the thing that I cannot teach people. Like
Mm-hmm.
people come to me asking what's the best practices for quiz, what's the way to make it convert the highest, and I'm like, the only thing you can do is make it genuine to you, and I
Mm-hmm.
cannot teach you how to be genuine to you. And if you have not learned that, it's going to show up in your quiz. It's going to sound like everybody else's quiz. It's going to sound
Yeah.
super generic because your voice is generic, even though it's
Mm-hmm.
a bit mean, but like
No, it's
it's
true.
true. No
Yeah.
one practices like you're saying.
Yeah. Or we're not, or
Yeah.
we are copying voice where we can like, yes, benchmark, go look at what everyone else in the market is doing, understand how your voice is unique and lean into that, right? Get inspired,
Yeah.
get influenced by somebody else. That's great, but that should also help you identify like, yeah, but I would say it that way because that's what makes me different. So you can even be like, oh, I would ask that, even if you're like benchmarking other quizzes, oh, this is great, I like it, but I would ask it that way. Well, then that's your voice, right? If there's that little voice in your head, like, I would ask it that way, or I think they should have said this, or I like, those are the moments when you start recognizing, like, oh, I do have an opinion. I do have my own thought leadership. I do have my own thought diversity. And so there's other people out there who are going to think a little bit more like me and be more attracted to the way that I say things or the way that I tell a story or the stories that I share about my life because they can find themselves in it.
That is a great way to put it, because people do ask a lot, like, how do you do this? And I think that's the answer. Look at the baseline, which is super easy now because ChatGPT will tell you
Mm-hmm.
what's the most, what's the average
Yeah.
of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Whatever your brain is like telling you is off about it,
Mm-hmm.
that's your voice. But
Right.
you do have to practice, right? Because otherwise,
Yes.
like, you become a drone where it's like, it
Yeah.
seems fine, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's not fine.
Yeah.
You think it should be something else. What do you think it should be?
Yeah. Yeah. And the practice is listening to yourself, right? Like
Mm,
allowing yourself to think into like, oh, well, what do I feel different? And even if it's just inside your head, even if you're not at to the point where you feel brave enough, like speaking it out in the room, like get quiet enough and still enough to hear like what you're really saying to yourself first, because that's where it
mhm.
begins.
Yep, that is that's a great place to wrap, because I think people should think about that.
Yeah.
Um, that's the key. That's the key. quiet enough to hear the inner voice. Where can folks go to see your work, take your quiz, work with you if
Yeah.
they're interested?
Yeah, so I'll give a couple sites. You can go to CoreanCanty.com if you want to learn more about me. You can go to speakmorehuman.com. You can find the quiz there and take the quiz. And if you want to learn a little bit more about putting play into work and in life, you can go to Shift to Play as well. My businesses are Speak More Human and Shift to Play. But you can find the quiz on speakmorehuman.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always down to have a virtual coffee chat and get to know people.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Corinne. This is an awesome conversation.
Yes, thank you for having me.